Welcome to this training video on running the 0628 and 0630. These are reports that are used to count the number of clients served on the night of the pit, specifically for the sheltered pit. In this training, we'll go over how to find the report, how to run it, and how to send your documents to the HMIS team. So, to start with the report purpose, the 0628 and the 0630 are both used to show how many clients were served for the sheltered pit. The 0628 verifies the number of clients in housing, specifically in permanent housing. Could be permanent supportive housing, rapid housing, or other permanent housing. And the 0630 verifies the number of clients served in emergency shelter, safe haven, and transitional housing projects. There's some additional report pieces that will verify on top of the number of clients served on the night of the pit. This report will also verify the address for projects where needed, the program type, the bed information, how many beds a project has, the grant information, as well as a new data element, the coordinated entry participation for projects. We have a special on the 0628 here. So the 0628 only counts clients who are housed on or before the night of the pit. So this is determined by the housing move-in date for the head of household. If you have a household in a PSH project or a rapid housing project, and the head of household does not have a housing move-in date, they will not be counted as being housed in the project for the purposes of the pit. If there's an error in the report or an error in the data, simply updating a client's housing move-in date for the head of household would make that client show up in the report the next day. Now we'll go over the report location. We'll show it here in the slides just so you have a visual here, and we'll also go over it in an actual service point itself. But our first step is going to go ahead and when you log in, it's going to be the same for the Arizona Balance of State as well as the Maricopa Continuum of Care. The first thing we'll want to do is connect to Business Objects right up here. Once you're in Business Objects, you'll get a new tab, and the first button you'll click is going to be Folders as indicated right here. From there, you'll see a sidebar that has public folders, and you're either going to see Arizona Live folder or AZ Department of Housing, depending on which continuum you're in. If you're in Maricopa, you'll click on this top link here, the Arizona Live folder, and if you're in the Balance of State, you'll click on this bottom link here, the Arizona Department of Housing. You will only see one of these, so there won't be any way to mix this up. After that, you'll get a series of folder options. You'll see federal reports. This will be the same in both continuums. You'll click that button. And then you'll click on the HIC PIT folder. This will be the same in both continuums as well, although the other file folders around it may be different, but otherwise you'll also click the HIC PIT folder. And finally, both continuums will see this number 7 here. They'll see both the 0628 and the 0630. Now, we will run through this report, how to read it, how to run it, and what to do when you're in the report itself. But as a final note before we jump into Service Point and show you how to run the report, here are some important notes. The final report must be submitted as a PDF. Now, of course, you may run this report in an Excel file for ease of use, especially if you're trying to manage which clients are or are not in the project, but the final version must be submitted as a PDF. Any corrections to the client data will show up the next day, so you must wait 24 hours for the report to update. So if you notice there's a client who should have been exited months ago, and you make that exit in Service Point, this report will not show that information until the next day. And finally, you'll send the final report to the HMIS support team at hmis-support@solari-inc.org. You won't include any notes about project corrections or updates. If the report doesn't show the correct number of beds for your project, or you have more beds than you did last year, for example, you would send that PDF to the HMIS team, and you just include a note saying, hey, we actually have 50 beds instead of 40. Can you please update that? And we'll show how to do that as well. So with these initial notes here, we'll jump into Service Point itself and walk through the process of running that report. Okay, here I am in Service Point, all logged in. Now, you'll see slight differences just in text if you're in the Arizona Balance of State or the Maricopa Continuum of Care, but the process is the same for both, basically. So the first step here is going to click this button, Connect to Business Objects. And a new tab, you'll see something come up here, and the first button you'll want to click is this Folders option right here. From there, you'll want to click on Public Folders. And if you're in Maricopa, you'll click on Arizona Live folder. And if you're in the Balance of State, you'll click on AZ Department of Housing Live folder. I'll go ahead and start with this one here. we'll go to Federal Reports, and then we'll have a HIC PIT folder as well. And within that folder, you see both the 0628 and the 0630. Now, just for ease of use, we often do recommend running these reports or scheduling them so they're run in the background. You can run it on your computer as well, but oftentimes it's just easier to schedule them. So we'll show how to schedule these reports. So I'll start with the 0630 here. Go ahead and click on the button, the three little dots here. And there's a button near the middle that says Schedule. So we'll click Schedule. And the first thing you'll want to do is just make sure that we have a good name for the report. So you'll have to run this for each provider or each project that you have in your agency. And it's good to identify which project that is. So I would recommend putting either the name or the actual project ID. The project ID is probably usually easier to work with for reference purposes. So that'd be sort of, you see a project, XYZ- emergency housing, and there's a number 14444. You just put 14444 in parentheses. But whatever name convention works best for you or works for us. But it is important to distinguish between which reports you're running, especially if you have a lot of them. But once you have an acceptable name for that, you'll click on Report Features. And there's only two options here. The first one is what kind of format you want to run it in. So you can run it as an Excel file, which might be good for manipulating the data. And the final version will run as an Adobe PDF. So we'll start with the Adobe PDF here, the Adobe Acrobat option. And then for edit prompt values, the only thing we're going to change is the select provider. The effective date and all the other dates have already been hard-coded in the back end, so there's no reason at all to change the dates. There's no reason to affect the EDA provider as well. The only prompt that you have to worry about is which provider you want to use it for. So we'll click Edit Prompt Values. And we'll just search for a project here. And you'll go and select which project you want to do it on. Again, you can only do this for one project at a time. So if you select a different radio button, you only get one option here. And that is, of course, intentional in this case. So we'll click Apply. And once that project is selected, you'll click Schedule. And you'll be all good to go. Now, it's the exact same process for the 0628, but we'll run through that as well. We'll go ahead and click the three buttons at the end. We'll again click Schedule. Again, we'll want to make sure that we use a naming convention that makes sense for us. In this case, I'll just put Training. We'll click on Report Features. And again, the only thing you have to worry about is selecting the correct provider. In addition, the format, the PDF format, when you do submit the final version. So in this case, I may want to look at the data ahead of time, and I can run that as an Excel file. And we'll just see what that looks like. So we'll click on Edit Prompt Values, and we'll search for a project here. And again, the dates are hard-coded, so you have no worries, nothing to do with dates. All you have to do is select the provider. We'll click Apply when we have the correct provider, and then we'll click Schedule. So we already have a report of this run before, so to open that report, once it's complete, is you can click on that. Another way to get to those reports is if you click on SAP Business Objects from the original Service Point screen. So you click on here, and then you go back to SAP. You'll also see those recent documents show up under Recently Run. So we'll just click View All Recently Run, and you'll be able to see all the different ones that you ran recently. So this is the one we ran first. This was for the 0630. To view that, you'll just go ahead and click on the report. And now it has all the information. So the first piece here, it has a video walkthrough at the top, and then you'll follow the instructions. So the first instruction is start with the section titled Verify Number of Clients Served on the night of 1/23/2024. This will be slightly different for Maricopa. It's going to be the night of 1/22/2024. In your case, the report specifies what information you're verifying. So this is going here and just verifying that the number of clients are correct. Did you in fact serve 158 people on the night of the PIT in this particular case? If that is wrong, you'll have to go into Service Point and correct data, either enrolling clients who are not in Service Point or not showing up in the report, or exiting clients who should not be in the project or not actually served on the night of the PIT. Now, to help with this process, we do have an audit for the number of clients or the clients actually enrolled. So from this list, you can see exactly which clients are in the project, and you can clearly identify clients who should not be there, or clients who might be missing from the roster as well. This will help identify any sort of errors and help you update the information in ServicePoint itself. So if this number is incorrect and you make those updates, you'll have to wait until the next day to run that report. So once the errors have been fixed, as it says here, you'll rerun the report on the next day. This is because it takes about 24 hours or past midnight for the information to update in the reporting database. If you have any questions, any issues, you can't get that data to really be correct to what is true in reality, you can reach out to the help desk anytime, and we can definitely help resolve any issues, data issues that are preventing this report from looking correct. But once you do get your client counts accurate, you'll navigate to the next section titled Verify Provider Information, and you'll just follow the instructions on that tab. So we'll say we've worked on this report a couple times, and we'll run past the client-served audit, and we'll go to the next section, which is Verify Provider Information. This is some basic information. So you want to verify all this information is correct. If it is all correct, then proceed to the section called Verify Bed Availability. If it is not correct, you don't have to make any modifications to the document, but you want to make a note of what needs to be updated and contact the HMIS team when you submit this final PDF report. So we have the address, the city, the project zip code, program type, and in the details and instruction, you'll see some additional notes. So depending on the type of project, the type of housing that you have, whether you're a voucher-based project or you have a brick-and-mortar project, it will provide different instructions and exactly different information that we're looking for. But everyone will have to verify these pieces here, the housing type, the target population, and the new fields here are going to be the project receives coordinate entry referrals, and if the project is a CE access point. So this is brand new, so no providers actually have this information completed yet. So in your final PDF, please let us know if your project receives CE referrals, and or your final email with the PDF, please let us know if they receive CE referrals, and if the project is a CE access point. And then we'll go and make those modifications on the back end in ServicePoint itself. On the next page for Verify Provider Information, we'll be looking at grant information. It'll just list a funding source. It'll list more than one of applicable, and we'll just show the current status. So it'll say either this funding source is currently open and is being received, or it'll say this funding source is no longer being received and is closed out. You just want to verify yes or no. Basically, if this is all correct, you have nothing to worry about, but if something needs to be changed, hey, you need to let the HMIS team know, in fact, this grant has not been closed and you're still receiving this funding. Or on the flip side, this grant is in fact closed. Let's say an ESG CV funding, and you're no longer receiving that, and this report says that you are, you'll just contact the HMIS team with that final email with the PDF indicating that this needs to be changed. So after that, we'll go ahead and make sure that we'll proceed to the section called Verify Bed Availability. Oh, and before that, we see a page with federal grant type. So this is just for reference. So if you're looking at the funding source, or you're trying to think of a funding source that you received but can't quite remember what it's called, you can refer to this page here just to see what is available from a federal perspective in HMIS. But once you verify all that information, you'll go to Verify Bed Availability. And this is where you'll go ahead and verify the number of beds. So this information is what we have in ServicePoint. We have units available where applicable, as well as beds available. For emergency shelter projects only, you also have availability and bed type. Transitional housing projects, as well as safe havens, will not have this information to verify. And then we'll also display the household type. So if you have households without children and households with adults and children, you'll see the different sort of number of beds available for both household types. This information is correct. Just submit the report and you're good to go. If this is not correct, you'll go ahead and let the HMIS team know that you have more or less beds per this information. For projects that are scattered site or have vouchers, generally you'll have a note that says that the HMIS team will help you sort that out. but just follow the report information here. And if you have any questions, again, just reach out to the HMIS help desk, submit a ticket, and we can walk you through that process. So, just so we can take a quick look, we'll also run through the 0628. We'll just look at it real quickly to make sure that we're familiar with that as well. So again, we'll click on the report here. And you can always download it from this function as well. To download the report, you can click on this arrow up here, export, you'll select all the reports, and then you can download it as a PDF as well. So we'll go and export that, and it'll just show up as a download here. It may change depending on your browser, so we'll open up that report so we can take a look at that as well. So as you can see, we're looking at the same information. The real critical difference here is that for the 0628, we're verifying the number of clients who are housed on the night of the pit. So the same process, we'll make sure that the number of clients that we have down here is accurate. If it is not, we'll make updates and run the report again the next day once the data is refreshed. If it is accurate, we'll move on to the next section. Which is verify provider information. We're verifying the exact same things for the 0628 for those permanent housing programs. Again, the address, city, zip, and so forth. We're again going to verify the information for CE referrals and access points. In Maricopa, you will notice there's a slight difference where we're only verifying if the project receives CE referrals, and we're using a different process to verify if projects are CE access points. But there's a process that agencies and projects will not have to worry about, something the HMIS team will take care of entirely. Once that's verified, you'll go ahead and make sure the funding sources are correct. And in addition, make sure that the number of beds is also correct. So again, you can see it's split out by household type. This particular project has households with adults and children, as well as households without children, or also known as households with only adults. But once that's complete, we'll go ahead and send an email to the HMIS team. So let's pull up an email and we'll see what that looks like. So I have my email here. So again, we'll go and email the HMIS.support@Solari-Inc. email address. And this will just be our PIT HIG reports. You can title this however you want for the subject. There is no preference. As long as you're submitting the reports, we are not concerned. So just go ahead, and the important things are to first of all attach those reports that you'll be submitting to the HMIS team. So we ran a couple of training reports. I'll just put those in the email. As you can see, they're in PDF format, and then you can just indicate that you've attached the reports. You can say these are for projects, whatever you want. And this is where you would go ahead and let the HMIS team know about any changes or updates they need to make. So you can just say, please make the following changes. And then the next one, if there's any updates as well, we'll say that everything is correct, except for, let's say, the address. And the other important thing for all projects will just be to verify whether or not they provide those CE services. So we can say this project receives CE referrals, and we can say this project provides CE assessment. Again, there's no real format for what this is looking like. We're just trying to show an example that when you are submitting the final PDF reports with the correct client counts, This is a great place to just indicate whether it's updates and changes that need to be made based on the information for the provider in the report. There's no set format. This is just what I did on the fly. Anything, as long as you convey that information, is going to be perfectly acceptable. So this concludes the training for the 0628 and 0630 reports. Please remember, all reports must be submitted in a PDF format, or excuse me, a PDF format. If you have any questions about the process, please submit a ticket to the help desk. Every agency will also have an assigned person with the HMIS team to help you work through problems and issues. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.